Having strong wind isn't something most people are proud of, but the Power Wind by Sim Racing Studio is about to change that. Welcome back, simulator fanatics, to the Game of Muscle YouTube channel, and welcome to our review of the Sim Racing Studio Power Wind. If you've ever used a VR headset with a fan on in the room, you'll have noticed it creates a strange sense of immersion, with the fan providing that sense of being outside when you're actually inside. That's despite the fan just blowing away, completely unaware, just being a stupid fan in the corner of the room. Stupid fan. Upset by the lack of fan intelligence, Sim Racing Studio created the IntelliBox and its accompanying fans, which allows you to generate wind whilst playing driving simulators, flight simulators and roller coaster simulators. The end result being, I can feel the wind! Perhaps by accident and presumably regrettably, Sim Racing Studio sent us the SRS Double the Fun Power Wind package, which consists of 2 fans, 2 ducts for those fans, an IntelliBox and the power gubbins required to actually get it to work. And for the past 2 weeks I've been using this with our driving simulators, Assetto Corsa, iRacing, Project Cars 2 and the flight simulator X-Plane 11. Setting up the Power Wind was actually really nice and simple. You just plug everything into the power, into the IntelliBox, download the Sim Racing Studio software off the website, click the update button and you're pretty much ready to go, with the only additional steps being selecting some options in the various driving simulators. But stuff like Assetto Corsa and iRacing, it just works, which is absolutely amazing and reduces that annoying fiddly time. I would say though, what does take a bit of time is working out where to actually place the fans. They do come with GoPro mounts and some Gorilla Glue on the bottom of those GoPro mounts, so you can stick them where you want to stick them, and good luck getting them off. But unless you've got a triple screen mount or a rig that happens to have the space to have them nicely placed in front of you, positioning them might be a bit tricky. As you can see, with our setup, we've had to go a little bit lopsided. It turns out that being blowed whilst driving certainly adds to the immersion, and as we pull out of the pit box on the best circuit in the world, we feel the wind start to pick up. And immediately the first thing that struck me with this was how in line the fan speed and the wind speed was with the speed in game. This has the effect of not only giving you the immersion, but also having a degree of functionality, in that you actually get more of a sense that you're going faster in a vehicle. And as we all know, speed perception and the feeling of speed is something that's quite lacking in driving simulators versus reality. Now of course, it's still not like reality, but you know, it's an extra couple of % of making it that little bit more convincing. Now though it feels great, an unfortunate side effect of being blown by your sim rig is that there is a fair bit of noise produced. Now we're not talking jet plane takeoff or even Hoover levels of noise, but you can't escape it. It does make a fair amount of noise, especially if you're running it on anything past 50% power in the Sim Racing Studio app. Through experimentation though, I did find running it on lower power levels, you still get a really good degree of wind variation, along with an amount of noise that you just really wouldn't notice over the sound of your PC case fans. Of course, if you don't care about anyone around you and you've got your speakers on or you're wearing headphones with the volume turned up, you could just whack them on 100%, and the sound they make really isn't going to be an issue. Now, an unfortunate side effect of driving in virtual reality is that it can be hotter than a yoga session with European supermodels. Having a fan on your sim rig blowing right in your face, I have to say, deals with all that heat like a charm, and works much better than my previous method of having the stupid fan sat next to my rig blowing at me from a distance. I'd say this works so well as a cooling solution, with the additional benefit of immersion, that I would definitely go for the single fan version that they offer rather than the double fan version. If you drive in VR, just have an absolutely awesome cooling solution for when you do longer driving sessions in VR. Those of you with more than 3 functioning brain cells have probably thought, what about cars that have roofs on them? You wouldn't feel the wind in them. And indeed you are correct. And yes, it does feel a bit weird if you have these fans blowing at you at gale force winds in a tin top car. The solution is to just simply put the software to blow at all times, or just turn the speed down and it feels like you've just got your fan blowing on you in your normal road car. You can do that on the fly. It's a quick alt tab, change the setting, jobs are good. It's also worth saying that in the software there's an ability to have what they call wind curving, which makes the wind from the left or the right fan, assuming you've got the double the fan package, increase or decrease depending on the physics in the game or the actual sideways angle and G-forces of the car in game. Now, it's nice and it does work pretty well, but I just found it distracting, and I also found if you're in one of those sort of tank slapper situations, which of course very rarely happens to me, then the fans do struggle a bit to keep up with the quick turning on and off, and it just feels a little bit dislocated. The basic go faster, more wind mode, however, is just seamless. When you've got that on, you're wearing your VR headset, there's wind in the game, and it corresponds to how fast you go. You forget that there's fans on your rig, and that, personally, is what I'm looking for, and what this device really excels at. In conclusion, the pros and cons smashed out like an undercutting cyclist being hit by a London bus. The first con is that, though I think they've done quite a good job of making it look reasonably nice, it's very obviously 3D printed, and you can see the 3D printed filament on the duct, on the actual fan holding casing, and on the IntelliBox that controls the fans. If you're really super anal about how things look in terms of their end finish, then that might bother you. Personally, it's not something I've noticed, but it's worth considering. It doesn't necessarily look as sharp as it possibly could do. The second negative is that the fans will add to your cable spaghetti simrig nightmare, in that each fan has a RJ45 network cable that connects it to the IntelliBox, and then a power cable that you plug into a standard wall socket. So that's 4 extra cables for your simrig. Now, if you've got a multi-screen display setup or a big simrig or something you put your tubing in, you put your cables in the tubing of your simrig, then that might not be a problem. But for those of you that are getting cabled to death, this might add to your cable nightmare, so that's worth considering. Now, the third con I would say is that though it's not ridiculously noisy, the noise is certainly something that you notice, and if you're whacking it on the high power and just, you share a property with someone, then the noise might be a bit invasive and intrusive. You can turn it down, you can get around it, but if you really want to get the absolute most out of this, you've got to slap the ducts on the fan, you've got to whack it to 100% power, and you've got to drive a Formula car and just feel the wind blowing through your hair. And the final con is that when you're at high speed, the increase and decrease in the fan velocity is not particularly noticeable. So on fast flowing tracks, it will generally just feel as if you've got a constant blow of wind at you. Now, if you're using the wind curving, that will still come on and off, but as I say, I prefer it without the wind curving. What I think would be nice is if in the software they have a setting that lets you adjust how sensitive the detection is of the car speed and how that then affects the wind speed. So maybe unnaturally so, the user could set it up so if you're doing one of those fast tracks, you can more easily notice the different variations in the wind speed. On to the pros, and the biggest one, the most obvious one, is that this brings wind from the game into reality. It's converting the digital into the analog real world reality that we inhabit. When you combine this with the virtual reality headset, it's absolutely extraordinary, and it does what it says it does. You get wind from the game, from this, and it feels very seamless. It's absolutely amazing, and something I highly recommend that you just try. You have to try it, even if it's just briefly. It's like VR. You just have to try it. Ideally, try this with VR. Double combo. Your mind will literally just exit out of your ears from the excitement of what modern world virtual reality racing and VR can offer. Another pro, and perhaps a less exciting pro, is the GoPro mounts that come with this Immersion Studio Power Wind. And the GoPro mount's a really nice idea. The fact that once you've stuck it on your rig, you still get a reasonable amount of adjustment that you can do, mostly with the sort of tilt up and down, left and right. So say you're driving a car, like a Formula car, where you want it literally blowing in your face because you want the full experience of the wind, you can then tilt it up and have the fan pointing at you, and it's a quick thing that you can just tilt with your hands and it's done and it's fine. But say you're driving something a bit more chilled out, or you're playing X-Plane 11 where you really don't want the experience of a jet plane taking off in your face, you can rotate the fans to the side and have something more akin to if you had wind coming through windows that were open next to you, or just a subtle breeze from fans that are on the dash or inside the plane cockpit. So the GoPro mounts, though subtle, are actually a really nice feature of the Sim Racing Studio Power Wind fans. Another slightly boring pro, but one that's certainly welcome to those of us that play VR. As I said earlier in the video, the cooling effect that you get from these, if you do sim racing for multiple hours, or you're playing VR for multiple hours, sat in a cockpit, the screens on your VR headset can get warm and your face can get a bit warm. Having a fan blow on you and blow on you directly really does help with cooling. So it's absolutely fantastic for VR comfort and keeping those comfort levels higher, allowing you to then spend more time in your sim rig, questioning your life choices and wondering why you're not just doing things in real life. And I'll tell you why you're not doing them in real life. It's too damn expensive. Who can afford a radical SR3? I can't, but I can play Project Cars 2 and use the Power Wind and get something about 3% of the real world experience. And lastly, the Power Wind is simple to set up. It really is a case of download the software, plug it in, work out where to put it on your rig, and away you go. And, you know, you don't want to be messing around with stuff. This is what I find doing a lot of streaming. I don't want to be messing around with things. I just want to have it set up, leave it, and it just works. And I've been using this for 2-3 weeks now, and it's just been on in the background whilst I've been streaming. I haven't had to remember to load something up or fiddle with settings. It's just there, and it just works, which, you know, that's invaluable, especially for what I do. And I think for a lot of people that just want to jump in the sim rig, not have to configure everything before they get going and just drive and enjoy things, that is absolutely awesome. They've absolutely nailed that. So there you go. That's it. That's our review of the Sim Racing Studio Power Wind. Final word. I've got to have a final word. Hopefully I don't die now, because this will be my final words. We'll put it on the tombstone. The Power Wind is fantastic. Died 2018. I highly recommend these. I would definitely get these. Absolutely amazing. I would say you don't need 2 fans. I would just get the single fan. If I was on a budget, I'd just get the single fan and stick it in the rig, and I'd absolutely... It's worth it. Don't get this, obviously, as the first thing to buy for your sim rig. Steering wheel, pedals, or a good flight yoke if you're doing flight sims is obviously the priority. But once you're looking to expand your horizons, maybe rather than getting another wheel rim or some other additional to your sim rig, the Power Wind I would put up there as a very high... very important purchase. I would put it up there. It's really good fun to use. It's just fun. It's just really good fun. Keeps you cool, practical, amazing. They did send me this for free to review. They haven't sponsored this video. I've said too many positives about it, you see. I feel like I've got to now offset this by saying it's terrible. But the simple fact is it is really good. So check out the link in the video description if you want to see one for yourself. And don't forget to click the subscribe button. Don't forget to like us. Nothing happens if you like the video. I mean, the subscribe button is probably more important. The good thing with clicking the subscribe button is every other day a bold man appears on your computer. Amazing. Who doesn't want that? I don't want that. I see that in the morning every day and just cry. But you can experience that. So subscribe, like, make yourself a cup of tea, enjoy the Power Wind. Thanks for watching this. Take care, everybody. Until the next one, goodbye.